And a number of Democratic lawmakers are either urging President Biden to push a ceasefire or demanding that any military aid that goes to Israel must include conditions. The pressure within the party, both in Washington and among voters, especially younger voters across the country, has been building for weeks. And though the president has recalibrated his public messaging toward Israel of late, now saying a resumption of war only serves to give Hamas what it wants, privately, the president is confident the best way to influence Israel is to hug them close, according to multiple sources familiar who spoke with NBC News. Joining us now, NBC News managing editor in Washington, Carol Lee. Carol, it's good to have you. This is an interesting article you wrote about President Biden and his position toward Israel, because it's one that he's held a long time, and it's one that he was told during the Obama administration was wrong.
Yeah, that's right, Katie. Well, what we learned, my colleague Courtney Cube and I went through our reporting to sort of look at why President Biden not only was taking this approach toward Israel, but also really digging in on it as he comes under all of the pressure that you just talked about from members of his own party, from U.S. allies overseas. And the reason is this is something that he has believed for a long time, including in 2014 during the Gaza conflict. While he was vice president, he advocated for this position, which is the way to have influence with Israel is to hug them very close and basically not show any daylight between the U.S. and Israel. And that then, in turn, in the president's view, gives you leverage and allows you to quietly influence them. And what we've learned is that the president in the early weeks of the current conflict in Gaza was talking about this, how he was right then, and that his views were dismissed by former President Obama and his staff at that time. And that because former President Obama in 2014 came out very early and was critical of Israel, that he never had any leverage with the Israelis as they carried out their assault on Gaza in 2014. And that because President Biden, in his view, has taken this other approach, the one he advocated for years ago, that he believes that he does have leverage and that strategy is working. And so how he's felt internally, at least in those initial weeks, was that his approach was vindicated, that this is something that was working and that he believes currently is continuing to work. And one other thing that we learned in our reporting, Katie, is that he's felt like anyone who had dismissed him as not having a good grasp on foreign policy was just wrong, and that the way that he's handled himself in this conflict proves that.
What do you make of the recalibrating of the message publicly? I mean, I know he's still very much standing side by side with Israel, but he is saying that a two-state solution is necessary, and he is urging more humanitarian relief. And he's also saying that a resumption of hostilities only serves to give Hamas what it wants, which is, diverging from what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said.
Yeah, and this is where you're going to see the differences between the Biden administration, the president, and the prime minister and the Israeli government really widen as this conflict goes on, and as they get into the phase of this where they start talking about what does a post-war Gaza look like, who governs that, how does that all play out. The president and the White House have a very specific view that is not one that's agreed upon by the current Israeli government. And so those differences, you can already see them emerging, and they're going to become more and more pronounced as this continues, Katie.